Again, thank you very much, Dr. Lean. Let's go to Dr. Barrett. I'm very happy that she's here right across me. That's an unusual event for me. Dr. Barrett, you have been, you're a Long Islander.
I am. Born in Brooklyn and proud of it.
Excellent. Can you know, this is a Long Island radio, as you know. Can you tell us what community psychology did for Long Island, should do for Long Island, and maybe will do for Long Island? And what were your involvement in these things?
Well, I actually am a social psychologist, and I'm not going to go into the difference because when I was in graduate school, community psychology, in a sense, didn't really exist. It was just developing. But it is the case that psychologists have been activists. I think that's the way to think about it. Psychologists have been activists on Long Island and in the New York metropolitan area, all over the country and the world, for as long as there have been psychologists, in the sense that people understand that being healthy, and I don't mean just physically healthy, but mentally, emotionally healthy, requires that you have enough resources in life to be able to manage your own life and to manage your relationships well. And so functional psychology in many of the sub-areas is actually very relevant to community and community psychology. And I actually got my start in wanting to use science to serve people, is the way I think about it. When I was very, very young, my mom was a health education phys ed teacher, and
By the way, you're still very young in my eyes. Let's get that clear.
yeah, but when I was a kid, you know, and she was also a guidance counselor. She had a lot of education from somebody who was born in 1918, and she was very insistent that we, at a very young age, understand how science operates around us. So she wouldn't let us out when the mosquito sprayers were spraying because of the pesticides. She wouldn't put pesticides on our lawn. She knew that the water that we drank on Long Island was under our feet in an aquifer. And so my brother and I were raised like Becky and Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn from Mark Twain's novels, you know, out in the environment, out in nature, essentially,
Right.
and respecting what was around us. She expected us to respect what was around us. And as an adult, when I went to school on Long Island. You know, people may not know this, but the State University of New York may be the largest single community psychology institution in New York State, because it's the least expensive, huge public system with an enormous amount of educational power. And it serves...
It's like a hub for community
And it has
psychology.
64 units.
Wow.
All right? And so anybody in the state university who's teaching, who then takes their science or their research or their art or their culture out into the community, or invites the community into the university, or invites the kids of the state, the young people of the state, to come to school there, is actually serving the community. I just had to get that in as a plug for the power and very amazing importance of the state university. I went to the state university during the Vietnam War, and I watched the difference between the faculty who made education very real for students and taught students to connect to the local community, and the faculty who didn't. And I always preferred the faculty who did. And I decided very early on I wanted to be one of those people, to take what I was learning and serve others, not just my students, but serve others around me. There are tons and tons of issues on Long Island that require a structured approach to the solution. And that's really what it is that the community psychologist offers. You know, there are many activists on Long Island without education. They do an incredible job because in their gut and in their sense of feeling, they know that things need to change.
Yes, of course.
What community psychologists can offer is help in organizing that change and in structuring it so it's very effective. That's what community psychologists can do. And when I was very young, I had a child young, when I was a young graduate student, and we lived about 7 or 8 miles from the Shore nuclear power plant, which was being built at that time. And I was married to a chemist who understood nuclear power all too well. And many people in the area were very worried about the plant opening because if it had exploded or imploded like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, which had happened at that point, it happened by then, there was no way off the island. And there was a huge movement on Long Island in which friends of mine, my colleagues at school, and graduate students with me, we wrote a community organizing handbook and handed it out to every single town and village on Long Island. And in doing it, we linked up with Newsday. Newsday saw what we were doing. There was a editor or publisher of Suffolk Life. His name was Dave Wilmot. I don't know if he's still writing. And he got very involved and brought us in and really promoted the perspective. So, and the Shore Nuclear Power Plant closed, never opened. And that was really a function of merging sort of the technical elements of what you do as a community psychologist with a huge reaction from the community. I mean, 55-60% of the people voted against Shoreham. And the federal government really had to attend to that. A more modern or one that's more forward is water quality. What's going on with water quality? If you listen on Channel 20, you'll see that the Long Island Pine Barrens Association, run by a guy named Dick Amper, is constantly trying to explain to us what's actually going on with our water quality, because all of the water is under our feet in the aquifer, and we're having a lot of trouble with sewage systems out in Suffolk because the Suffolk residents aren't on sewers. We have septic tanks, and the septic tanks and the septic fields are creating a problem and poisoning, making the water toxic. Those kinds of it are cancer rates. We have very high breast cancer rates. Why do we have high breast cancer rates? Why should we have high breast cancer rates? All of these issues are issues that community psychologists can have a very large engagement in, so long as the community psychologist remembers what Dr. Leon just said, that we're really the background noise, and the people who really make the difference are the people who have the need, the direct need. And I've done that. That's what I do. That's what I love. That's what my passion is, and that's how I see psychology. Even the theory, the models of psychology being useful to ordinary people, to everyday people.
This is fascinating. Tell me, Dr. Barrett, as you look back on your history, what was your most outstanding project that you are really proud of? I know you had many.
It's really hard to pick, but the one I'm engaged in right now, and I have been for a very long time, all those others I still keep my hand in, but it's been 9/11, and it really hit home 2 or 3 days ago, or on Channel 12, there was an announcement that a firefighter, a Long Island firefighter, I think from Nassau County, just recently died of brain cancer, and it was traced back to his exposure at 9/11. He's a Zadroga World Trade Center responder. And so I'd have to say that is so compelling for me. The issue of toxic exposures, when people are doing good work and they're doing it from their hearts and they're using their skills to help other people, and then local governments or larger governments or agencies deny that those things are affecting them and will affect them. I have to say I do have to take off my scientific hat. I do get infuriated by it. And I have been working for a decade or more with children who lost their parents and 9/11 responders, providing therapy for responders for their post-traumatic stress disorder, working with Stony Brook University Hospital. And I really, every day I wake up, I don't always go do it, because sometimes I have to teach at the State University. I love that too. But when I'm doing that, I wake up every day and go, oh boy, today's going to be a good day, because I know I'm really going to make a difference on an individual level. And it's interesting, the balance between individual differences and group differences, because the 9/11 responders are a group. They're a group of people who were exposed to incredibly toxic materials and who don't have much of a voice.
Thank you. Let me ask you something. Let me ask Dr. Leon, as you look back on your life,